today I will be walking you all through the anatomy of the urinary process in our bodies. This is a vital function of our body and is essential for maintaining internal balance as well as eliminating waste products. Today we'll be covering a plethora of topics as we go through this process, which I have laid out for you in this slide. First, we will start off with an overview of the urinary system. Following this, we will look at the kidneys, the nephrons, and then the glomerulus, and the Bowman's capsule. Two parts of the nephron which assist in filtration, the first step of urine formation. From there, we will move on to the subsequent parts of the nephron, including the proximal tubule, loop of Henle, distal tubule, and the collecting duct. These parts assist in tubular reabsorption, tubular secretion, and water reabsorption, which all affect the concentration of urine and are all parts of the final steps of urine formation. Then we will move on to the transportation of urine, which includes the ureters and the bladder. Finally, we will be covering the elimination of urine, also known as urination or micturition, which involves the bladder and the urethra. At this point, we will have covered the basic formation and elimination process of urine, and will move on to the disorders that affect the formation and elimination process. To tie everything together, we will explore a clinical case, which will be followed by some questions to provoke your thinking. First, we will be covering the urinary system. This complex system consists of the kidneys, ureters, bladder, and urethra. Its primary function is to filter blood, maintain the balance of electrolytes, fluids, and pH levels, as well as filter out waste in the form of urine. On top of this, the urinary system has an assisting role in regulating blood pressure. All these organs together form the overarching system, but each organ itself has a specific role in the process. The first organs we'll be covering are the kidneys, which are about 12 centimeters in length, 6.5 centimeters in width, and 2.5 centimeters in thickness, and are located inferior to the ribcage and on both sides of the posterior abdomen. These organs play a part in regulating blood pressure as well as the initial point of urine formation, working constantly to filter the body through processing waste and excess substances from the bloodstream. This filtering is done through small units called nephrons, of which there are around 1 million in each kidney. These nephrons consist of multiple parts as well, all with its own function that we will cover going forward. These key parts include the glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, loop of Henle, distal tubule, and the collecting duct. Altogether, these parts work in tandem to filter blood, reabsorb essential substances, and dispel waste. The first part of the nephron we will be covering is the glomerulus, which is a bundle of capillaries enclosed within the Bowman's capsule, as well as the starting point of urine formation, as it is a key driver of glomerular filtration. Blood enters the nephron through the glomerulus, where it's filtered by a network of capillaries. Larger molecules and blood cells remain in the bloodstream, but water, ions, and small molecules like glucose and urea pass through the glomerular membrane into the Bowman's capsule and form what is known as filtrate. This filtrate that was created then flows through the proximal tubule, loop of Henle, and distal tubule in that order, forming the process of tubular reabsorption. During this journey, around 99% of the filtrate is reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, consisting of essential substances like glucose, water, and electrolytes. The small amount left behind becomes concentrated waste products. The third step in the formation process is tubular secretion, which occurs largely in the distal tubule and the collecting duct. This step involves substances such as hydrogen ions and potassium, along with specific toxins. These aforementioned substances and toxins are secreted from the blood into the tubules and subsequently excreted in urine, which assists our body in regulating pH levels and removing additional waste products. Another essential function that nephrons provide is the maintenance of the balance of water in our bodies. Both the descending limb and the ascending limb of the loop of Henle are essential parts of this operation, as in the descending limb, water is reabsorbed, and in the ascending limb, ions like sodium and chloride are reabsorbed without water. The results of this reabsorption is the product of concentrated urine, which is more prominent when the body is dehydrated. The final part of the nephron, as well as the final step in urine formation that we will be covering, is the collecting duct, where the concentration of urine is refined and prepared for transportation. ADH, or the antidiuretic hormone, plays an essential role in increasing water reabsorption. So the higher level of ADH, the more concentrated the urine will be. Increased levels of ADH can be associated with many things, including the usage of various drugs, lung diseases, and certain tumors. Now that we have successfully formed the urine, where does it go? This is where the second set of organs that formulate the urinary process come in. First of all, the urine travels through collecting ducts into the renal pelvis, which acts like a funnel, transporting the urine to the ureters. Ureters are muscular tubes that are about 25 to 30 centimeters long, and their function is to act as a passageway to transport urine from the kidneys to the bladder. In this passageway, peristaltic contractions from the ureter walls push the urine through to its final destination of the bladder. Now that we've finally made it to the bladder, the urine is stored here until the person is ready to expel it. The bladder is a hollow, muscular organ located in the anterior of the pelvic cavity, superior to the urethra but inferior to the ureters. Bladders can typically hold around 400 to 600 milliliters of urine and are lined with a composition of transitional epithelium, allowing it to expand and contract as necessary. And now that we've covered how the urine is transported to the final destination of the bladder, we will look at how that urine is ultimately expelled from our system. The process of expelling urine is called urination or micturition. This process starts with the stretch receptors in the bladder wall that send signals to the brain as the bladder fills that the host needs to urinate. In response to these signals, the brain replies by contracting the detrusor muscle while relaxing the internal urethral sphincter, pushing the urine to the urethra. Finally, we've made it to our final passageway for our urine, the urethra. The urethra differs in length between males and females, as males have two functions for this passageway, which are urination and the expulsion of semen. Because of this, males have much longer urethras at around 20 centimeters long, whereas females, who only use their urethras to urinate, have urethras around 4 centimeters in length. The act of urination is voluntary and is maintained by the external urethral sphincter, which we can consciously control so we can choose an appropriate location to dispel our waste. Now that we've covered the entire urinary system and its processes, we're going to look at some disorders that can affect the formation and elimination of urine. The main disorders that affect this process are kidney stones and urinary tract infections that could result in incontinence. Firstly, kidney stones obstruct the flow of urine, causing the kidney to swell and the ureter to spasm, which can be very painful. UTIs cause inflammation of the urinary tract and cause a burning sensation while urinating, and can result in a loss of bladder control or incontinence. However, all of these disorders can be mitigated or avoided entirely by practicing behaviors such as stopping smoking, losing excess weight, cutting down on caffeine and alcohol, and many more. I now have some questions I'd like to pose to you to apply your learnings, which I've written on the board and will pertain to the case that I will read out. A clinical case that pertains to the learnings that we have covered highlights the trials and diagnosis of a 69-year-old woman. This woman was ultimately diagnosed with a case of acute kidney injury, or AKI. The woman reported a history of type 2 diabetes mellitus, as well as arterial hypertension. She was admitted back to the hospital to be evaluated for leg pain, asthenia, which means a general lack of strength, as well as diarrhea and malaise. Eventually, through hemodialysis, which is a treatment through machine filtering of waste when your kidneys are unable to do it themselves, her urine output levels began to improve back to regular levels, although renal function was still compromised. The final renal biopsy revealed an overlapping 3 issues, which were cast nephropathy, diabetes, and light chain deposition disease, which were treated with protein complexes and steroids to the point of partial renal function when treatment was stopped. As we can see, the urinary system is an integral part of our body in maintaining health. Through the processes of formation and elimination of urine, our kidneys, ureters, bladder, and urethra all assist us in filtering and reabsorbing essential substances and water, while expelling unnecessary waste and toxins. Ultimately, all of these processes assist us in the maintenance of our body's internal balance, such as blood pressure, water levels, electrolyte levels, and many more. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.